Welcome back, chaps. I've been expecting your arrival. It is I, the GOAT, providing you with the videos of all time. Today's video topic will be on a more serious subject matter I am not qualified to talk about. No, I am not a medical professional, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is all just my opinion, don't sue me. But I will be talking about the most addictive substances and ranking them at the end from least harmful to most harmful. The subjects we will be talking about are gonna be, not in order by the way, social media, drugs, alcohol, gambling, sugar, love, sexual pleasure / Jorkin it, self-harm, preservatives, and caffeine addiction. If you don't know what addiction is already, it's pretty much engaging in behaviors that produce natural reward, chemicals like dopamine for example, despite substantial harm and other negative consequences. But one last thing. I know I promised I said I was gonna eat Arby's, but as you saw in the cold open, look at what I found. That was the closest Arby's next to me too. I was devastated but not surprised in the slightest. They shut down for business. The next closest Arby's to me is almost 10 miles away, which is a pretty good ways away. I didn't realize Arby's was that far from me. But not all hope is lost. I will eat it eventually, but it just complicates things a bit more. I will get to it when I have enough time though. Maybe this was a sign from God saving me from Arby's food poisoning. But instead I did get a new item from Popeyes. I never tried it. So instead I will be eating that at the end of the video. Please forgive me about the Arby's situation. I can't believe it actually closed down. On another note, I almost got hit by a car when I was biking, so like and subscribe if you want to see me get hit by a car. And with all that out of the way and hoping I'm not forgetting anything important, let's get started. Let's start off with one of the most popular addictions, alcohol addiction. Alcohol as a substance is highly addictive, of course. The reason why it's so addictive is because alcohol increases dopamine levels, which can lead to pleasurable feelings. The more you drink, the less effective it is at producing that dopamine, which leads to the brain to want more alcohol to feel the same effects. Another thing I feel like that is very important to mention is how easily accessible alcohol is. At least here in the US, once you're 21, you can buy all the alcohol you want. In my opinion, alcohol might be just as bad as normal drugs. Hard drugs is a different story though. Most accidents happen from people driving inebriated than on drugs. Every time you see the news, it's usually a drunk driver killing a family of 4 or something. One last thing I wanted to mention about alcohol is how hard it is to quit. Your body becomes dependent on alcohol over time and you will actually die if you just flat out stop drinking if you're really addicted. I don't drink myself, thankfully, as I find the taste disgusting and I am not 21 yet, so I can't buy my own beer. But many people aren't so lucky. So if you ever want to drink because it looks cool, or you just want to get wasted or something, don't do it. It's not worth it. There's definitely a lot more you can talk about alcohol, but I feel like I've said enough where you could get the picture. And for the ranking, I feel like you might know where this will end up. The next addiction we have is gambling addiction. Gambling is usually paired with alcoholism, which makes gambling worse as it makes you impaired and have poor judgment. But gambling itself is still a really bad problem a lot of people deal with. Gambling is highly addictive because it's an escape from reality in some cases. It can help you relieve feelings of guilt, anxiety, depression, etc. Just like alcohol, it's a short-term solution to a larger problem. I don't think people realize that it's pretty much impossible to win big. Their mindset is just one more game, and they never win. The house is rigged against you, but they keep gambling because of that one tiny sliver of hope and the miracle of hitting it big. Gambling will change your life for the worse though. You'll lose all your money, lose relationships with family, friends, and loved ones. Again, gambling is a way to get dopamine, which is gonna be a very common pattern with most addictions. Gambling can come in all sorts of forms like video games, video game loot boxes, the casino, scratch cards, sports betting, horse betting, etc. Just be very careful with gambling as it can ruin you. Tier list wise, gambling is bad, but it isn't the worst you could get at least. The next addiction we have is self-harm. Self-harm comes in a lot of different forms. It doesn't always have to be about suicidal thoughts. I know me saying that word is most likely going to get the video age restricted, but I don't really care. I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, so whatever. Self-harm can include things like overindulging on food, drugs, alcohol, internet usage, if viewed in a wrong way, can lead to psychological damage, and me eating the meat mountain from Arby's, etc. People react differently from those thoughts. For me, I like using humor as an outlet, but some people don't react the same way. Everyone is different with how they deal with mental health. I really don't have the expertise to be covering such a topic, but it's important for the rest of the addictions. If you want me to make a video just about mental health, I can do that. I would provide my insight and opinions on the matter. And maybe if some of you guys are going through something, maybe I can help at least one person, you know? But as an addiction on the ranking, it's hard to place because of how many things can be considered self-harm, so I guess it's right at the top because of it. The next substance we have is social media addiction. Social media addiction is when you keep checking your phone to see any updates on people's or YouTubers' lives. It can become an obsession just to keep checking your phone every time. Effects of social media addiction can lead to lack of sleep and, of course, leading back to mental health problems. For most people, they have that social media addiction because of that dopamine again. There honestly isn't really much to say about social media addiction except how it's a big time waster. I suggest you go touch grass, nature is beautiful. You don't need to be constantly checking on your phone. For the tier list, I would say this isn't definitely the most harmful thing in the world, but more of a time waster. Just be careful of what you consume, of course. The next addiction we have is love. Having a crush on someone is perfectly normal and healthy until it becomes an obsession. Loving your partner is great unless you become more dependent on them. You have to be able to love someone without taking it too far. Some people become reliant on their partner too much, and that leads to problems. You're just gonna be overthinking all the time and be thinking, what if I'm not good enough? Do they actually love me? Things like that. Love can be dangerous if it's overly obsessive. But if you can love someone in a healthy way, this would probably be the least harmful addiction. The next addiction we have is jorking it. Very self-explanatory. Just an addiction to naked women or men. Not really dangerous or anything, but can mess with your mind because a human isn't supposed to have that much access to all this content. The next addiction we have is caffeine. Caffeine addiction has a pretty similar property of alcohol, where your body becomes dependent on caffeine to function. Caffeine withdrawal symptoms include headaches, fatigue, irritability, and difficulty concentrating. Caffeine can help you with fatigue and stress, which can lead to chronic use. I wouldn't say caffeine is the most dangerous per se, but the dependence can cause problems. This is probably the most middle of the road addiction in my opinion. We are now down to our last three addictions, and a very common one a lot of people don't really think about is sugar. The sugar category includes chocolate, sodas, cake, candies, etc. Just like most addictions, sugar causes a dopamine high that's very short-lived. Sugar by itself is an addiction, but it's also with high fatty foods or salty foods, which we'll be getting on later, because of how the chemicals react with your brain. It's honestly pretty interesting on what foods cause a euphoric sensation. This is unrelated, but grocery stores, if you notice, they put most of their essentials in the back, like eggs and milk. Then they put all of the unhealthy stuff in the front. So when you're finished getting all your stuff, you think to yourself, man, these chips look pretty good right now. And then that's how they trap you. I just thought it was pretty interesting on how they do subliminal messaging. Corresponding with the sugar, the second to last addiction we have are preservatives. This is very similar to sugar, so I'll be pretty quick on it. Preservatives include things like trans fat, dyes, MSG, etc. A lot of these things make you have a certain sensation, especially with that delicious Red 40, my favorite. Preservatives have more addictive vices than sugar, so I would say it's higher on the list. The last addiction we have is, of course, drug addiction. The most well-known addiction and pretty easily one of the worst addictions. There are hundreds of different drugs, some more addictive than others and worse than others. Most people when they hear drug addiction, they think of hard drugs like coke, fent, herobrine, stuff like that. But a lot of people forget about drugs like cough medicine or prescription pills. Pills and cough medicine are probably easily the most accessible drugs you can get your hands on, even more than alcohol in my opinion. Overdosing on cough medicine is a lot more common than you think, and as you already know, overdosing can be fatal. Same thing with pills. Overdosing on pills is more common than cough medicine. Another addictive, I guess you could say, drug is a vape pen. Nicotine is a highly addictive substance that are put into vape pens. Vape pens are really popular for getting high. A lot of people in high school used to use it, and a lot of kids use vape, which I don't even know how they get their hands on. Keep in mind, nicotine is considered significantly worse for children than adults because of how their brains are still developing, making them highly susceptible to negative effects of nicotine exposure. Side effects which can include trouble learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, potentially leading to long-term cognitive impairments and increased addiction risk. It goes beyond just that, but that's just simple information you could find in a few minutes. But of course, there's even more addictive stuff like the hard drugs, which include fent, coke, herobrine, and stuff like that. I don't think I need to get too deep into it because of pretty much everyone knows how terrible these are. Fent, especially nowadays, is more prevalent in more drugs. Just be careful with what you consume. You can never be too safe. And for the tier list, this is definitely the easiest S tier. You have now made it to the tier list section. Starting off with the least worst addiction, we have love. Love is a very safe option, but for the small percentage of when it does get bad, I would put it at B tier because that's when partners hurt each other. But as long as you're both just in a happy relationship, it's the least worst. In D tier, we have social media and Jorkin because they both kind of correspond with each other. Not dangerous, but time wasters. Go touch grass and get off the internet from time to time. In C tier, we have caffeine because it isn't really dangerous, but your body can become too dependent on it, which could become dangerous in the long run. In B tier, we have sugar and preservatives because that's in so much of the food we eat that it gets hard to avoid them. It's all about balance though, so don't be eating them all the time. In A tier, we have gambling. Gambling can be very addictive and ruin your life if you're not careful. In S tier, we have 3 addictions: alcohol, drug, and self-harm addiction. They are at the top because you can genuinely die from them, and self-harm includes both alcohol and drugs, plus many other things, which is why it is at number 1. With the tier list over, that is the end of the video. But I will be eating Popeyes if you care to watch that. And remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It really does help me out, and thanks for stopping by. You are the real GOAT! Hello my goats, you have made it to the padding section of the video. So when I was looking up the Popeyes menu a couple of weeks ago, I actually found this item that I didn't even know existed, so I kind of wanted to try it. And what we have is shrimp. I got a 8-piece shrimp, I think it's 8 pieces, maybe 10, but it was around $6 to $7. Not too shabby, I guess. It honestly just smells like the Popeyes chicken, so that's a thumbs up for that. But how do they taste? This is what they look like. Let's try it. Honestly, it was pretty good. I'm not even gonna lie. Thumbs up for that. I'm gonna just finish off the rest of these. They're actually really good, but I don't know if I would get this again over Popeye's chicken sandwich because they're around the same price, but the chicken sandwich does feel like it has more food. But either way, this was a good choice to get. Thumbs up for that. Bye bye.